What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. It's time to talk some draft with Sirius and the NFL Network and Metairies' own Rhett Lewis at Rhett NFL. Rhett, what's going on, brother? Thank you for making some time for us this morning.
My pleasure, fellas. Always great to chat with you guys, to talk, a little draft season.
Yeah.
We are approaching draft month, so fired up, man.
Yeah, it is one of those times where you never quite know what to believe, what not to believe. Let's start with quarterback, though, Rhett. Obviously, Cam Ward feels like he is the number one pick with a bullet. But I think the most interesting piece on Cam Ward lately has been, I feel like I've started to see the conversation shift from, okay, he's just number one because of the context of this class. And I feel like I've seen it shift to more like, no, he'd be worthy of a number one pick in multiple drafts. Where do you fall on the Cam Ward debate?
Yeah, look, I think he's for sure the number one pick. He's number one pick worthy in this draft. But I think, look, if you look back at last year's draft, which is kind of tough because it's a little bit historical. Like, yeah, there's some precedent there with 6 and 12 picks and all that. I don't think he's one of the first 3 quarterbacks taken last year. And honestly, he might end up being the 7th quarterback taken last year. So, and look, I don't think that's an indictment on who Cam Ward is. I mean, like, those guys ended up being really good. But shoot, Bo Nix was the last one taken and was, in the running for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So I think you got to look at it that way too. Sometimes that's a tough class to compare to.
No, it definitely is, Red. I mean, it is one, like you mentioned, historical class, and you got so many great players, and looking forward to seeing what they do in year number 2. But staying with quarterback, like, are we going to see, because it is quarterback, maybe even 3 quarterbacks go in the first round just because whenever there's that need at that position, maybe you do overreach? Like, could we see Jackson Dart find his way into the first round?
Yeah, I think for sure you could definitely see that. I think Jackson Dart is a good, clean QB prospect. Like, I think he's right up there. And I don't think he's that far off from Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. In terms of grade, in terms of where they may end up going, especially now that the Giants signed Russell Wilson. I think if Cam goes 1 and the Browns decide no dice on QB, then what? Right? Then where?
Yeah.
And so then I think, that'll start to push down. I think the Saints is an interesting, kind of conversation when it comes to quarterback this year. I wouldn't feel great about taking, a true franchise quarterback, beyond Cam in this class. So I don't know that I feel like the value is better trying to take, like a Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round rather than pushing a Jackson Dart up to number 9 or 10 or whatever it ends up being.
So don't say number 9. That would get people around here to get their ears to perk up a little bit.
Hey, no, it's already. Look, my buddy Fletcher Mackel down in New Orleans has been spewing it all over the place.
Like you said, there's the Browns. They're putting smoke out there. They're not going quarterback. The Giants with the signings of Russell Wilson, Jameis, I feel like they wouldn't go quarterback. So where do you think Shedeur ends up landing?
Well, look, here's the other thing. Russell Wilson is on his 4th team. Jameis Winston might be on his 14th. I can't remember now. Yeah. And even in Las Vegas, you've got a mid-30-year-old Geno Smith. I don't think any of those signings preclude those teams from taking a quarterback, but it takes the pressure off a little bit, right? And so, I feel like most teams are going to want to push their chips in next year's draft class, especially for the quarterbacks. Yeah. Because when we look at it, this year, he's got every team with a first-round pick. That's the first time that's ever happened in the common draft era.
Oh, wow.
Every team has their own first-round draft pick. Nobody has traded.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that it won't happen when we get to draft day, but I just don't think that there are prospects in this class that are necessarily, causing teams to feel like they really want to shoot up to go get somebody. Now, could somebody come back into like the second half of the first round to say, all right, the value is now here to take that, let's say third quarterback or maybe even the second when it comes down to it.
Rhett, I was out at LSU's Pro Day yesterday, and you and I have talked about this player before, but I don't think anybody had a better day than tight end Mason Taylor. He was somebody that had a really good Senior Bowl, and he was, going to be a first 3-round guy, but it feels like he's worked his way into maybe even a top 55 player. I know there's some mock drafts that have him in the 30s. Mason Taylor, big day yesterday. Where do you have him right now?
Oh, yeah. He's tight end 3 for me, just behind Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. I mean, he was one of the cleanest, smoothest, and best overall prospects, regardless of position, that we saw at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Like he and Gray Zabel and, maybe Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan probably in that conversation too, were way up there. And you were there in Mobile. I mean, you can vouch for that.
Yeah.
He nailed it. He's such a professional. Like he's up there in terms of like he's going to be a great pro and kind of already is a really kind of professional type player with like Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Kind of really rings to be as one of those prospects. I definitely see Mason Taylor as a top 50 player in this class. And I would probably say at this point, top half of the second round.
Rhett, the draft's all well and good, but do you know what I actually want to talk to you about?
The UFL.
Indiana football, baby. Cignetti. Kurt Cignetti, year 2, okay? I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of the premier Indiana Hoosier voice around these parts. I got loudly decried and shouted down as I continued to hype up Indiana last year. I still think people have a warped perspective of just how good Indiana was last season. What is the local hype right now around Cignetti year 2? I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing, but do you think that he can follow up with another positive year for the Hoosiers?
Yeah, and I think that depends on what people's expectation of, a positive year would be, right? Is it another CFP appearance? Is it a 10-win season? Is it bowl eligibility for a second year? I think that was like the expectation year 1, right? It was like, let's get the 6 wins and then let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out they got the 6 wins in the first 6 weeks. So, that felt pretty good. So I think we have raised that bar, pretty considerably. I think at this point, with the way that he has laid a foundation, and he went out and got another quarterback, in my opinion, maybe even higher ceiling than Curtis Rourke last year.
Really?
With Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit more of an athlete, too, which will help because, look, as good as Bob Bostad, the offensive line coaches, and as the offensive line played cohesively last year, it's never quite going to be like Ohio State level. There's only a few of those prospects, in the world, and they get a bunch of them. LSU gets a bunch of them. Alabama, it's still tough for Indiana to get those guys. So I think having a little bit of extra mobility at the quarterback spot is a positive. But they're foundational players are still there. Kyle Kamara led FBS in QB pressures last year. Elijah Surratt was a 1,000-yard receiver. Carter Schmidt is a left tackle that's probably a day 2 draft prospect next year. There are foundational players still there, and staff continuity. Offensive, defensive coordinators remain. They only lost 1 coach. There's a lot to be excited about there.
All right, Rhett, before we let you go, the question I always ask you when we're together, let's go to running backs. If I set the number at 1.5, running backs drafted in the first round coming up here in about a month. Are you going to go over or under first round running backs?
Over.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We're going. You can set it at 2.5.
back.
I might take you on 3.
Damn.
Ooh, don't tempt me with a good time.
So what? Okay, past Ashton Genty, who is it then?
It's Omarion Hampton.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think it's gotten closer between Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah.
But I still think game speed, game breaker speed, Travion Henderson has a little bit of like Jahmyr Gibbs light to him.
Hey, there's no way that Henderson makes it past 37 for sure with the Raiders and Chip Kelly. Like, even if he's not a first rounder, I feel like Henderson, they're going to like pull their hamstring turning that card in, right?
Well, not unless they've already taken Ashton Genty at 6.
True.
Yeah. I hope he ends up a Saint.
I love it. Running backs back. You heard it there. Rhett Lewis confirmed.
Let's go, baby.
Rhett Lewis, NFL Network, Sirius XM. Also catch him on the Indiana Game Day broadcast. Rhett, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.